Hi everyone, welcome again to asp.NET Core MVC tutorial. In this video we will learn about anchor tag helper. In this video we will learn what is anchor tag helper, how can we create a link by using anchor tag helper, how to pass parameter value, how to pass loads of query string data, how to pass fragment, how to pass a complete URL, and several other things which are required to learn about anchor tag helper. Okay, let's start. Anchor tag helper is used to create a link by using this a tag. Inside HTML, if I need to create a link, then I simply create this new a tag, and inside this a tag I have to pass the href, and once you will pass the href, you will get a proper navigation link into your page. But if you are using the default HTML tags of creating link, then in some scenarios you will get few problems. Let's focus on the problem first. Here I am into the bookstore application, and inside this bookstore application, if you will notice, by now we are using the default HTML tags for creating link for our application. If I run the application by press Ctrl F5, at this point you can see the navigations is working fine. We have all the navigations over here onto the menu bar. We have all books. If I click onto the view details, then all the navigations are working fine. Let's focus on the code. The code is written inside layout file. If I open the shared folder, go to this layout. At this place you can see we have this navbar, and inside this navbar, if you focus on the code, then you can see we are using this anchor tag from HTML, and we are also using href attribute where we are defining the path for the navigation. If you are simply using your application this way, then everything will work perfectly. Now suppose for any reason I want to deploy this application inside a particular folder directory. How? For example, right now I'm using this domain for this application, localhost 65352. But for any scenario, suppose I want to append book application after this domain. I want to access all the URLs after this bookstore application. Then we will be in trouble. Let's see how. At this place, I believe you do not have any knowledge of routing. But do not worry, to learn about this concept, we have to learn a little bit about routing. Let's open the startup file. And inside this startup file, if I scroll down a little bit, then here at the last of this file, you can see we are using endpoints. And we are defining endpoints dot map default controller route. If I press F12 on this map default controller route, then you can see this method is defining a default pattern into this application. And the default pattern is controller is home, action is index, and the ID. But now since we have to create a directive for the application, so instead of using this map default controller route, I will be using this map controller route. Why? Because if we will use this map controller route method, then we can define our custom pattern in this map controller route. If I scroll on the right side a little bit, then you can see we have several methods, and we have the second one is pattern. So if we define the pattern, so it means we can pass the custom pattern in this map controller route method. Do not focus too much on this routing concept. Just focus that we are going to deploy this application into an folder structure. How? Okay, let's copy this pattern. Go back to the startup file, and here for now I'm just going to comment this line again into the new line. Let's write endpoints dot map controller route, and in this map controller route I have to pass two parameters. First one is I have to type the name. Suppose the name is default, and then we have to define the pattern. If we are defining the pattern like this, then there is no difference in between this map controller route method and this map default controller route method. Now let's make the change and let's add a new directive over here. Suppose here I'm writing book app. Now I have to enter book app after the domain to access all the pages. Let's build this solution and run this application by pressing Ctrl F5. So by default you can see we are getting a 404 page. Why? Because the entire code is written after book app. And if I press enter now, then you can see we are getting the home page. If I click on any of the link now, suppose I'm clicking on this about page, then you can see again we are getting 404 page. To run this application, I have to append book app into the URL. Let's press enter now. This time you can see that we are getting the page. Now in order to use this book app into your application, you have to update all the links that you have written into your application. Why? Because if you will focus onto the about, then into the bottom side you can see we are only having home and about us. If I hover onto the contact, still you can see we are having home and contact us. We are not having this book app into any of the link. So this is the problem. Let's go back to the code, and just for some time I am going to comment this line, and let's enable the previous method. So everything is back to the normal now. Now let's focus onto the anchor tags. Anchor tag helper is used to create a link using a HTML element. By default, all the tag helper attributes are prefixed with ASP. So inside this HTML tag, we have to write some attributes, and all the attributes started from ASP dash, then we have to define the name of our attribute. How to use anchor tag helper? Inside an application, the main feature of using a link is to navigate to a specific page. And the overall flow of asp-route core application works with controller, action, and area. If you are not familiar with area at this point, then do not worry. We will cover area in some later video in very detail, but for now just focus that we are using area, then we have to use these attributes. For controller, I have to write asp-controller. For action, I have to write asp-action, and for area, I have to write asp-area. Now what is the meaning of these attributes? Let's go back to the code. Let's open the layout file. Now we have to make this anchor tag special by using HTML tag helpers. And you already know that to use tag helpers, we need to define a directive inside our view imports file, and inside this view import file we have to define the assembly. So here is the assembly, microsoft.asp-netcore.mvc. Okay, so we have to change the text of MVC. We have to write this way, dot tag helpers. Let's go back to the layout file. Let's make it special. First we have to remove this href. The target of this link is home controller and the index action method. If I open the home controller, then you can see we have to hit this action method. Now let's define this code into the layout file. All the attributes of tag helpers start from ASP. So let's first type ASP, then dash. This time you can see that we are getting the IntelliSense from Visual Studio. So here you have to type controller. Okay. If I use this controller, then you can see the color of this attribute has been changed. Now we have to define the name of our controller file. Again, we have to define which action method we are going to use for this particular anchor tag. Let's define that as well. asp-action, and the action name is index. Now let's save all the changes, go back to the browser and just refresh this page. If I right click on this home and choose inspect, here at this place you can see that we are still getting the same href that we were using with the help of HTML tag. Let's go back to the code. Now let's update all these tag helpers. Okay, we are done with all the changes. Let's save it. Now let's expand the other links as well. So this time you can see we are getting the same href that we were getting in the previous HTML elements. If I click on this about, then you can see all the pages are working fine. This get all books action method belong to the book controller. So instead of using home, we have to give the name of book controller over here. Okay, let's update it. Go back to the browser, refresh the changes. This time you can see that all books link is also working fine. Now let's enable that URL directory for a while. Go back to the startup file. Now comment this line and enable the previous code. Okay, now let's build the solution. The build is successful, and let's run this application by pressing Ctrl F5. Okay, let's type the URL over here. It is book app. Here you can see application is working fine. If I click onto the about, then you can see we are automatically getting this book app appended into the URL. If I click on the contact, then still the link is working fine. For all books as well, everything is working fine. If I click onto the home again, then you can see all the links are working fine. We are not appending this book app manually in any of the URL. Now let's see what HTML we got from these links. If I right click on this one and choose inspect, This time you can see that we are automatically getting this book app into the href section. If I open this one, then you can see here as well we are getting book app. In all the links you can see that we are getting this book app appended in all the links. This is one of the main benefit of using anchor tag helper in your application. If you are using these anchor tag helpers, then there is no need to worry about deployment or any URL changes or anything else. You simply have to write the name of your controller, action method, and everything will work fine. I have added this code just to teach the concept of these anchor tags. So let's comment this code. We will learn about the routing in some upcoming video, and let's enable the previous one. Let's build the solution. Now let's learn how can we pass parameters while using anchor tag. What is the meaning of parameter? Suppose in any URL you are passing some parameter. Suppose to view the details of book we pass ID of the book. So how can we pass that ID of the book by using these anchor tag helpers? Let's see. Since the main game is done by using attribute, so we have to use a new attribute for this one, and we have to use asp-route- the name of your parameter, and then we have to define the value. Let's see how it works. Let's open get all books view, and inside this get all books view, here you can see at this place we are using this anchor tag. Let's make it special now. Okay, so first we have to start our code from asp, then dash controller. The name of the controller is book in this scenario. Then we have to type the action, so asp action. The name of the action method is get book, and now we have to pass this id. And how to pass the id? So we have to type asp dash route, then press dash, and now you have to enter the name of your parameter. What is the name in our scenario? It is id equals, and now let's set the value. The value is available inside this @book.id. Let's paste it over here, remove this href, and we are good to go. Let's press Ctrl F5. If I click onto the all books, then you can see we are getting a list of all the books. If I click onto the view details, then as you can see everything is working fine as it was working previously. The main benefit is if I use a new directory for the deployment, suppose after the domain, then in this scenario as well we do not have to change anything. For example, if I am inside this book controller and inside this get book, I need to get one more parameter. Suppose it is string name of book. We are already passing one parameter over here. Now let's learn how to pass the second parameter as well. So again you have to write asp, then dash route. After this route, again you have to press the dash, and then you have to type the name of your parameter. What is the name of our parameter? It is name of book. Let's copy it and paste it over, and now you can pass the value of this book name. You can make it hard code or you can make it dynamic. Suppose we are getting the name over here in this book.title. Let's copy it, paste it over here, and we are good to go. Now we are passing two parameters into the application. Let's build the solution. Go back to the browser and refresh this page. Go back to the all books. Now click on any of the books. Suppose I'm clicking on MVC. So this time you can see we are getting two parameters into the URL. This belongs to the ID, and then name of the book is equals to MVC. This is the second parameter that we are getting with the help of query string. How can we modify the URL? That is a part of routing that we will learn in upcoming video. But now just focus how can we pass multiple parameters in a URL. Now for any scenario you need to pass one more parameter. Then easily you can use one more asp.route. The name of parameter, and you can pass the value. By now we were passing only one or two parameters. Now suppose I have to pass 10, 12 or 15 parameters into a URL. Then instead of writing this asp.net route again and again, there is one more best solution. So in this scenario we can use asp-all-route-data attribute. If we will use this attribute, then there is no need to define all the parameters one by one into your anchor tag. Let's see how it works. Suppose at this place you need to pass multiple parameters into your application. Then let's see how to do that. So let's create a block, okay, where parameters. Let's create a new dictionary over here. Inside this dictionary you can create the type, so a string, comma string, and here we can define the values. Suppose first I want to pass name. You can get this data dynamically or hard coded as per the need of your application. So for now, just for the learning, I'm writing, suppose it hard coded like this. Let's define one more over here. Suppose I'm writing company and then I'm writing web general. Let's define one more. What is the suppose app name? It is bookstore. Let's put a semicolon over here. Okay, now suppose I want to pass all these parameters into my URL. One approach is write all of them one by one, and the second one is simply use this asp-all-route-data, and by using the regular syntax you can simply pass the data over here. Let's build the solution. If I click onto the view details this time, here you can see we are not getting the data, but ignore that one. Just focus on the route. Here you can see we are passing name, company, and the app name. All other parameters that you are passing by using asp-route, that will be ignored completely, and whatever you have defined into your asp-all-route-data, that will be passed to the URL. So by using this approach you can pass several parameters by simply using one attribute into your HTML anchor tag. Since we are working on the application, so I will be removing this code because we do not need this one. I also will remove this one. This was just for your learning. Okay, now let's go back to the page, and everything is working fine. How to pass fragment using anchor tag? What is the meaning of this fragment? Let's click onto the all books, and inside this all books, if I'm clicking on this MVC book, then you can see in the bottom side of this page we are getting few similar books as well. And if I want to navigate directly to the similar page section of this particular book, then I have to define the ID of this div over here into the URL. Let's see how to do that. So this is the place where we are using the similar books. Let's define a new ID over here. So here I can write similar books. Let's copy this ID. Let's copy this ID and go back to the get all books page. So here we are not using this name of book, so we can simply remove this one. Now to pass the fragment, we have to use asp fragment attribute. Let's see how to use this asp fragment, and inside this fragment we have to pass the ID. The ID is similar books. Now let's see what impact we will get onto the application. Let's click onto the MVC tab. This time you can see we are getting this section directly over here, similar books. If you will scroll up a little bit, then you can see we are getting the details, and just focus onto the URL. Here you can see the ID is appended into the URL with the help of one hash. And since we are using this hash ID, that is the reason that this similar books section is visible directly from this URL. Let's try again this one. If I click onto the second book, which is .NET Core, this time again you can see directly we are seeing this similar book section from this page. So if you are having this type of functionality in your application, then you can pass the fragments by using asp fragment attribute. So we do not need that in our application right now. If in case in future we will need it, then definitely I will use it. For now, let's just remove this code. This is just for your learning. If you are building an application where you need all these scenarios, then you can simply use these attributes to build your application. Let's learn one more concept. How to pass a complete URL using anchor tag. To pass the complete URL, you need to use asp-protocol. What is the protocol? If you are using HTTP or HTTPS, then you have to define the name of your host when we will be using these attributes into the application. For example, you have one more application, and that application is already working on some different domain, and you need to navigate to that application. Then in that scenario you can use these asp-protocol attribute. Let's see how to use them. For this, I would suggest to go to the layout file, and let's add one more link over here. Let's give it a name like new link, and over here I need to define suppose asp, then protocol, and protocol is suppose HTTP. Then I have to define asp host. The host is suppose webgentle.com. Let's save all the changes, go back to the browser and just refresh this page. Here you can see we have one new link now, and if I right click on this link and choose inspect, let's see what details we got. Here you can see we are getting a complete URL of webgentle.com. So this time you can see HTTP is over here, this is the protocol, then we have colon automatically added, then this backslash, then webgentle.com, this is the host, and then the further URL. So this is useful whenever you need to write some external URL for your application. Compatible with routing. Suppose you are using routing into your application, then in that scenario there is no need to make any further change into these HTML components. You simply have to focus onto the routing and everything will work automatically. Let's see how. I believe at this point you are not aware with the routing at all, but do not worry, this is just for the learning because we need some basic concept of anchor tag with routing as well. So I'm just telling this scenario, but in some upcoming video we will learn each and every detail of routing. Suppose for this book controller, let's make some changes over here, and here on this action method I need to define a routing. How to do that? First I have to use square bracket, then route, and inside this route suppose I want to write book details, and then I am passing the ID. Do not focus on the syntax that I am writing inside this route attribute one. So let's build the solution. Go back to the browser, let's click on the all books and let's open this view details. This time you can see the URL has been updated automatically. Earlier we were having the name of the controller and action method. Now you can see we are having some custom URLs over here. Now let's focus what is the purpose of telling you about this concept over here. The main purpose is not about telling you routing. The main purpose is that if you are using these anchor tags, then there is no need to change anything into your application. You simply have to focus only onto the routing part. Everything will work automatically. Everything will be compatible automatically. If I give a name to my route, suppose I'm giving it a name, and the name is book details route. Now if I want to use this route into the anchor tag helpers, then how can we do that? For this we simply have to use one asp-route attribute. Let's see how to do that. Let's copy this name, go back to the get all books, and inside this let's remove this controller and action. We simply don't need this one. asp-route, and let's give the name of our route. This is book details route. So if you are using routing and you are defining the names of your route, then there is no need to define even the controller and action method. Let's build the solution. Go back to the browser, click on the home page, again click onto the all books, click onto the view details, and this time again you can see we are getting book details into the URL and we are getting the entire page perfect. I believe after watching this video you will be able to work on anchor tags in any scenario. I have tried to cover all the concepts of anchor tag in this video. If you like it, please hit the like button of this video. If you have any problem or feedback or suggestion, then you can tell me everything into the comment section, and please share this video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.